Hello and welcome to another daily devotion. As this week we tackle, as pastors, what we would love to preach, uh, where and what body we'd like to preach it in sharing, and why. Uh, this is going to be a little unconventional, but really, I guess a God dream for me would be to, here we go, deep dive. I'd like to preach a different kind of sermon to white supremacist groups, to Christian nationalists. And here's what I'd like to do. Having grown up with my own prejudices and familial prejudices in my formative years, I think the thing that really pushed the envelope and changed broad brushstroke stereotype statements that were made by family I love or people I cared about, and just the absence of many people of color in the communities I grew up in. I would love to have those who've grown up in a fear-based, prejudice-laden supremacy mantra to not necessarily preach a sermon, but a life sermon of working together and being the minority, perhaps most Caucasians for the first time, with a group of African American, Latino, Native American in community, and getting to know people who you've been taught are less thans, are whatever stereotypes, greasy, thieves, whatever ugly things that are typecast of groups of people from different ethnicities or racial backgrounds, and to allow Jesus through relationship to break down some of the falsehoods, letting them like scales fall from the eyes of our prejudices. And to the Christian nationalists, I'd love to bring them along with me to a shanty town in the, a shanty town in South Africa, a township church, or in mission work in Haiti, or that's the church has done in Honduras, to go beyond the borders to see the hardships and struggles of people's lives, and to have this nationalistic gospel meet head on and collide with the reality of the struggle of brothers and sisters who are in many ways not only children of God, but often people of faith, or to have them go and care for children at the border. It's like this, it's like typing on your keyboard or sending a tweet on your phone. I don't have to see you. I don't have to see how what I'm saying is emotionally impacting you, whether good, bad, indifferent, ugly. But when all that ideological crap has to face a human being across from you who hasn't eaten in days, or who is emaciated from thirst and dehydrated because they've just walked the desert barefooted. It's really easy to make statements, broad brushstroke statements from far away about whole groups of people without ever having walked in their shoes. I'm not so naive to think that such abject lessons, sermons lived out, would cease the problem of racism or ethnic tensions, and we could all sing "Heal the World, Make It a Better Place," and it would magically kumbaya be so. But more so than any sermon, I think, ever preached from a pulpit is the one that Francis of Assisi used to say is the sermon that we live with what we do in our lives and how we interact with people from very different communities and backgrounds than us. And we see Jesus in them. And all the things that we've been taught to fear are often broken down when we see the human face staring back at us that may look different from our face or have a very different cultural experience than our experience. But in that moment where two or more have been gathered, there Jesus is. And we have to wrestle with what we've known and proclaim to be true, and then discover that our experiences with those people don't match up with what we've actually seen and heard. That the history we've been taught about that group of people maybe doesn't reflect the whole story. Maybe has quite a slant to it. It's interesting to see the world through another's eyes. Jesus helped people do that frequently. Levi, are you kidding me? Leper! If he knew what kind of woman this was that was wiping his feet with her tears, he'd have nothing to do with her. You're wrong. Jesus would have everything to do with each one of them and would call us to try to break down those barriers with the Holy Spirit and do the same. To love your neighbor, you got to know him. The only way to do that is to rub elbows, work together, play together, laugh together. A different kind of sermon. But I'd rather do that than preach 100 sermons.